Hey y'all, thought we'd do another lesson today as long as we got the SG out of the case these days. So this is the end from from the Doors' first album, and it's in this I guess they call it double drop D tuning. So both E strings are down to D, and it sounds like this when you play the D. Well, the chord that it's based on is a D5 chord, so it's D, A, D, the notes of the chord, the main chord, D, A, D, A, D, D. So that it's only D's and A's on that main chord. So it's not, the cool thing is it's not major or minor, it's a fifth chord, so it's just the two note chord. And one thing to know about how you want to do the main riff that goes. Kind of stuff. You want to play your D5 chord as a pointer finger on the G string at the second, and then the B string at the second with your middle finger, and then your ring finger also on the B string at the third fret. Because what you're going to do is on that B string, you're hammering that B string on from 2 to 3, 2 to 3, 2 to 3, and that's kind of the main repeating motif of the song. In fact, if there's one thing to practice as you get started, practice just that for 5 minutes. And it is easier to do like Robbie does without a pick, so you can get some of that, like all that kind of stuff that he does. But let's get into it a little bit. So you got that main riff. Once he does the opening part, that he's just playing around with little melodies that he's inventing through the intro, and I don't think he does those. In fact, I'm sure he doesn't do all those parts the same every time they played it. So we won't either. So when you get into it, you're going to start doing this at the start. Now, when you start playing around with it, what you can do is you can hammer on that high E string at the second fret and then suspend it onto 3 like you would a normal D chord. But since the high E is tuned down to D, you get that sort of Eastern Indian feel to it when you do that stuff. So you can play around with it and just do. You know, he does these little scales. I don't know what they are, but on the low E string, you can hammer on at 4, and then do the same thing on the A string. And you could even do it on the D string. And then hammer on the G at the second fret and then go into that D chord. But what I think he does mostly is hammer just the E and the A, hit an open D string, and then hammer on the G string at the second fret into that little chord. You know, that kind of stuff. And another thing he does throughout the intro, and again, we're just doing the intro jam part for right now. He'll do just hammer on that low E string at the 4th fret to an open A string into that D riff. And then other times he'll do the same thing on the A string at the 4th fret to an open D string. All that kind of nonsense. So that's the intro, and that's just messing around with that chord shape and those fingerings. And so when it gets into the song proper, you're into this. So that's walk up the A string 0, 2, 3 into a C chord. And you can hit that, you keep hitting that I, E string, which is now down to D, because that gives it that drony feel that keeps going back to the D note. So you can, my only friend, this is the end. So that's C. This one's a G, and it's just the E and the A strings at the 5th fret, and you can play all the strings on that one. That's that no safety or surprise part. That one. I'll never look, just stays on C, into your eyes again. Back to C. Picture what will be. So that's that limitless and free line, right? So for that one, you want to just strum through the 4 highest strings, and on the high E string, you're going 3, 2, 0, and on that last one is the B string at the 1st fret. Back to that same D that we've been doing. Limitless and free, desperately see it me. Also G, that same G. Strangers out in a desperate land. Right now we're into the guitar solo, which I think starts on this. Which is take like a D shape, move it all the way up here, so you got G at the 7th, B at the 8th, high E at the 7th, right? And then it does this little. Now let's run through that. Starts on this, just like a D chord. Now the solo, almost all of it until you get to this little bend. Until you get to that, it's all on the B and E strings. And he's just alternating between picking a fretted B string note and an open E string. So that's more that drone with that D note on that high E string that's tuned down to D. It just keeps repeating through it. So you can actually do this whole thing just about with one finger. Alright, so let's start with that. And it goes 3, 5, 7, 8, 10. Back to 8, back to 10. That's one up, so it's 10, 11, 12. 10, 11, 12, 11, 10. So let's string them together what we got. So it's 10, 12, 14, 12, 10. So it's 10, 8, back 10, 8, 7. So you bend the G string. Bend the G string up, not two steps up, but like one. Bend that up, and then you hit the B string at the 6th fret. Then it goes back into the D chord after. And then it's back into the rest of a vocal and stuff. Now this is a down and dirty, very quick lesson, and it assumes you know a little bit about guitar playing. So if you've been playing for 6 months or something, go ahead and try it, and you may do well at it. But this is really more for people who have a little guitar playing under their belt. In terms of the solo, just know that it's the B and the E strings, and take 10 minutes. Even if you didn't know what I just showed you, or the fret numbers or anything like that, if you take 10 minutes and you know you're only doing it you're only fretting notes on the B string, you ought to be able to get that solo down in just a few minutes. It's pretty simple, as long as you're just fretting the B string and then hitting the high E string in between notes. You should get it. So I moved pretty quick on this one, but it's really meant for people who have a pretty good grasp of the guitar and just need a little shove in the right direction. So good luck. If you have any trouble, let me know.